For 2 years, the crash of Air France Flight 447 has been a mystery. The plane went down off the coast of Brazil, killing all 228 people aboard in June of 2009. Now, a report on the crash has just come out this morning, and CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg joins us with the very latest on what officials have learned. Peter, good to see you this morning.
Yes, sir.
So the investigation into Flight 447 comes out a couple hours ago. What are investigators now disclosing about those last few minutes of that ill-fated flight?
It's actually the last 3 minutes and 30 seconds of that flight as the plane drops from 38,000 feet in that period of time directly onto the ocean. Now, what's happening is they're flying initially at their regular flight altitude of 35,000 feet when they encounter some turbulence. At this point, the plane's on autopilot. But their flight sensors, their pitot tubes, which actually tell the pilots how fast they're going, apparently are frozen. They're not working. They're defective. So what do the pilots do? What pilots normally do. They try to slow the plane down. They disengage the autopilot. They disengage their autothrust, and they basically slow the plane down. Now they're in trouble because they're slowing the plane down slower than it really should be flying at all, and they put it into a high-speed stall. The nose goes up to about 16 degrees, and the plane starts climbing. But at that altitude and that speed, it loses speed very quickly. And guess what? At 38,000 feet, it starts to drop. And it's dropping at some points up to 10,000 feet a minute.
Okay, so it's these speed sensors which are what really threw the pilots because they were getting, like you said, incorrect speed readings.
From the beginning, yes.
Now, is this systemic, this type of problem? Is this something that all these Airbus A330s, it's something that now needs to be investigated with all these planes?
Well, the investigators have been looking at these speed sensors for quite some time. In fact, this past March, Air France was actually charged in a French court with manslaughter in the deaths of these 228 people, and that investigation is continuing. Now, they've since fixed those, and they've since adjusted those, but the fact is, the charge was that did Air France know they were defective when that plane was already flying?
Okay, one of the things that's in the report, and I'm not saying that this had any bearing on what happened because they're all qualified pilots, that the captain was not in the cockpit at the time, came in when there was a problem. The two co-pilots and the autopilot were at that point operating the plane.
Not relevant at all to the situation because in any flight that's of this duration, you always have relief pilots, and the main pilot was doing his crew rest. He did come in, never took controls again because they were already in control of the plane, at least they thought they were. And at that point, all they could do was try to get speed up because they were losing speed and losing altitude. They tried to put the nose down, but they couldn't control the descent, and 3 minutes and 30 seconds later, they impacted the ocean.
What happens to the plane while all this is going on?
Very little at this point that we know of. We just know that with those instruments frozen, all their instruments in the cockpit were no longer of use to them. They were not getting any relevant readings that they could do anything about.
Now, do these findings answer all questions about what caused this crash? I mean, is this investigation essentially closed at this point? No,
not at all, because there's one open area, and that's the location and the condition of the tail of that plane. That tail of that plane was found many, many, many miles away from the main debris field, and it was found intact. The real question is, did that tail come off before the plane hit the water? And when did it come off, if it came off at all? That's what they're going to look at now.
Can't speculate, but you can only imagine the fear factor and the terror. These poor passengers. 3.5 minutes, you say this plane was descending at a rapid speed?
No, it was not descending at a rapid speed. It was just descending at 38,000 feet to the ocean in 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right, Peter Greenberg, thank you.